Hey, everybody. My name is Brad Lawless. I'm the product marketing manager for TinyMCE. And with me today, I've got Fred Harper. What's that, Fred? Hey,
This
look at that
guy. Yeah, hello everybody.
guy.
Super excited to
Hey.
be here. My name is Frédéric Harper. I'm a senior developer relations manager at TinyMCE. What does that mean? What does it eat during winter time? Basically, I'm a developer advocate, so my job is to give love to developers. I'm the, I don't know, social, technical, approachable, friendly face of the company. But I'm saying that right now, I'm with Brad. Brad is also, I feel you're also a friendly, social, approachable face and even technical face of the company. And we kind of look alike a little bit. I mean, like I'm a little bit better, but still,
I
we have
mean,
this.
similar hairstyles, I guess.
I would say that.
And give me just a second here. I need to officially stop that timer since we have started. All right. Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on here with me. Our first webinar together, first of many
Yeah,
as we
I
go
hope so.
through.
I'm actually, we'll see after this one. We'll see how it goes. If we still want to do webinars together, but really excited to be here. I joined TinyMCE a little more than 2 months ago. So this is not just my first webinar with B. This is also my first webinar ever, not ever at TinyMCE. I've done a couple of those in the past, but again, just super excited to be here. And yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I hope it's not your first webinar ever. If so, someone else was in all those videos you have on the internet. So today, we are here with you to talk about collaboration features and why collaboration, I mean, it's 2025 and we've all been through a pandemic. We know how much is important in our tools that we use to work with other people. We're going to deep dive in that a little bit and show off the newest collaboration feature that we have in TinyMCE called Suggested Edits. So we'll just hop right in. Did have a bit of an intro. I feel like we've already kind of gone through the... Oh, and I forgot to put your Twitter handle on this PDF. So at F Harper, I believe, FHARPER.
Exactly.
So Fred is very available online for answering questions, I don't know, emotional support, I think, dad jokes, really anything, right?
Yeah, actually, as you can see with my picture, we can talk about cats. We can talk about a lot of
Cats.
things, but obviously, TinyMCE, I'm here to help you being successful. I'm not just only on Twitter, I'm on Blue Sky, with me on LinkedIn, search for my full name, Frédéric Harper, and I'm going to be there, happy to connect with other folks. And again, help you if there's anything, but also if you are using TinyMCE, if you're using even the feature, or even if you're not using the feature or the plugins we're going to talk about today, if you have any feedback, positive, because, we like that. We like to know that we are doing a great job, but also, the less exciting, less sexy feedback, I still want it because part of my job is not just to help developer being successful, but also to bring the feedback to the product team. So anything you have to say to me, please do it without any filter. I'm going to be happy to receive that and connect with the product team or help you being successful.
Exactly. And as I said before, my name is Brad Lawless. I go by B, so I'll answer to anything. And as well, when you're talking to Fred, or you can reach out to me on socials, I'm usually at just Brad Lawless. If you have literally anything, if there's documentation that's missing, if there are, the next webinar we do, let us know what you'd like to see. Much easier to make things that people ask for than try to predict what people want to see. All right, let's move on. So to start, I assume if you're on here, you've probably heard of TinyMCE before, but it's always good to baseline for everyone. TinyMCE is a JavaScript-based rich text editor component. It's kind of a mouthful, but we are essentially, when you see when you're on a web page and you're typing some text and you can format it like you do in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, that's what we make. We are in applications, hundreds of thousands of applications across the web. Millions of developers use us. We've been around for over 20 years. And, we're more than just a text editor. We're a drop-in editor that's very simple to configure, especially for out-of-the-box features. Some of the things we're going to show you today require a bit more configuration, but you can honestly get it up and running within a day on almost everything we have. And that's why, it's really easy for devs to use, very simple, familiar features for users. And you can use us with a cloud-hosted solution or self-hosted yourself. So that's enough of like the sales spiel, if you will. Let's get into
Before you jump to the next slide, I
Yeah.
just want to talk to my fellow developers. On top of that, like really a couple of lines of JavaScript to include it in your project. I have a huge respect for the engineering team at TinyMCE because as a developer myself, as much as I need a rich text editor in many types of application I want to build, I don't want to build that. I want to concentrate other stuff where I will bring more values. So it's really easy to use. And on top of that, we have multiple integrations. So I speak most of those programming languages. So also, if you have any issues with one of our SDK wrapper integration, please let me know.
Yep, and we've got, I think, over 12 of those now. So, and always looking for where, wherever people are developing the next new framework that comes up, then, we will have integrations for that as well.
Yes.
All right. Why are we here today? What are we talking about? So we're calling it the collaboration imperative. I think, like I said, we all know what year we're in. We've been through, most of us were working remotely at one point. Not all of us are now, but even if you're in an office, you're not always in the same room with people. You're across a building, you're across a campus. Google Docs brought that truly collaborative functionality anywhere you want it at any time. I mean, Microsoft Word, I guess, helped to create the whole text editor toolset, but Docs really brought in the collaborative features that I think everyone just kind of almost expect now when you're building an application. Yeah. So, in some way, shape, or form, all the work we do is distributed. And we know that content creation is a team sport. I mean, there are some of us that are individual contributors. Fred, you and I kind of both are, but we do work on a larger team, right? People look at the stuff we write, we send it to our content team. They suggest things, we change them, things go out. And your users who are creating content are probably needing those features if they're not already baked in. So let's talk for a second about what users are looking for. Bring my notes over here a little bit so I don't forget it. So they want seamless editing. You got multiple editors in a document, especially if you're on a team or depending on your business use case, you have auditors that are looking for certain things, or they need to see when edits have been made, what comparing one revision to another one. They need role-based permissions that just work, right? Not everyone needs the same level of access. An editor needs to do a lot with a document. A contributor just needs to write or maybe leave a comment. And it has to be reliable. We scale, we're used in startups all the way to Fortune 100 companies. And at every step of that journey, you need to know that your tools are going to work. So that all sounds great. But then when it comes to what developers face, it takes a lot to wire those things together, especially if you're building them yourself from the ground up. Like Fred was saying, the reason we exist is to make a dev's life easier at the end of the day, right? You want to go build your cool stuff and not have to worry about how text is going to get formatted or moved around in your document or in your app, excuse me. So you've got, complex logic on, syncing, asynchronous, transforming things, conflict resolution. If you're doing any kind of real-time collaboration, you've got real-time servers. There are services out there you can use, but if you're trying to do everything in-house, that's another server to set up and maintain. And then you're just looking at time investment. You got weeks or months or longer to build what your users expect. And it's been a while since I've been a developer, but even when I feel like I've nailed what my users are looking for, there's usually always a little extra that come back and
ask
for you. So what does this really mean for you when if you say, that's okay, we got it. We're going to build our own collaboration in our rich text editor. Well, the iceberg metaphor is overused for a reason. And that's because you look at it and go, how hard can it be, right? It's just that little bit we got to do. Yeah. And then there's all of that underneath the water. And, product managers make it sound really simple. Just add some collaboration. Just, like Google Docs does. Go do that, please. But then underneath the waterline, you got all those things I talked about, right? We've already talked about, and maintaining servers and access controls and scaling infrastructure. And then you have to make sure it looks polished and matches that as much as you can, that look and feel from something like Google Docs. And you know what? That's probably not what you signed up for when you said, I'm going to be a developer. My analogy for that is, if you'll permit me a small sidebar, when I got out of grad school and I started working as a software engineer, I wanted to go make cool stuff. And I got to maintain a COBOL system that was 30 years old. Yeah.
COBOL.
So
it's been a while.
COBOL. Yeah. The last time I talked about that I think it was 15 years ago. In therapy. Just kidding. Okay. So we flip that equation around. Collaboration for us is just another plugin. Technically, it's 4, and we're going to walk through those in a second. But we want you to focus on your core product while TinyMCE does all the heavy lifting for you. And we're almost done with the slideware. I think this is my last one, and then we're going to start looking at cool technology with Fred.
Emos and code.
And we're also going to, forgot to mention at the beginning, we've got a Q&A at the end. If anyone does have any questions, happy to talk through those then. All right, so our solution, sort of, on a page, at a glance, covers sort of the continuum of collaboration from starting a discussion, proposing changes, accepting those changes, and then storing different versions or revisions. So we've got that in 4 different modules that work well together. Comments, mentions, suggested edits, which it's our flavor of track changes. We'll get into the details in a little bit, but when someone is suggesting to you an edit that should change, and as the owner you go in and accept or reject those suggestions, or discuss some feedback about it. And then revision history is just that. We're storing different versions of different content. So at the end of this presentation, I'll put a link up. We have the presentation available to download, mainly because of these next few slides. So for everything we're going to show you, we have links to resources on tiny.cloud for setting them up, reading through the documentation, all sorts of stuff. So this first slide, we're not going to show you how to set up TinyMCE, but if you have not done it in the past and you need a little bit of help, we've got this quick start. I highly recommend the link to the video in the middle. I laugh because I'm in it, not because of that, but it's an easy, quick overview. And then as always, we've got the documentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the knowledgeable one on this webinar, Fred.
Let's agree to disagree on this one.
All right. And then let me stop. Let me see. Do you have your screen share up, Fred? Yeah, there it is. Oh, you've already got it on stage. Cool. So I'll remove the presentation and we're off to the races.
And for whatever reasons, my screen is not on the right side. Can you see that?
I can see your screen. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's... Can you see it on the right side? I mean, like it's from left to right.
Oh yeah, hang on.
Here
in the webinar, there's like a mirror my. Go to your controls along the bottom. Where you can mute or turn off your camera. Go to the settings on the right hand side. And
just remove it. Oh, that's weird because it's like the setting for people watching us. Why I look stupid right now is because the setting is named mirror your camera, which I expect to mirror my camera, not everything like my share screen.
Although I would have... Go ahead, finish.
That would have been a cool demo though, but probably not super interesting to try to understand what I'm showing to you right now. So yeah. So for the people of you that are not technical, that part of the webinar may be a little more boring, but at the same time, I'm going to do some live demos of those premium feature collaboration features that we talked about. And I'm going to start with the first one. So I decided that as a first demo, I'm going to show you all the specific features separately. So it's going to be easier for you to understand. It's going to be easier also for you to understand the code behind it. And after that, I'm going to show you everything put together, which is going to give you the ultimate suite, basically within TinyMCE. So here I'm running locally some code that I wrote. It's basically TinyMCE here running, and this is the mention plugin. So one of the things you may want to do, like if you use tools like Notions or Google Doc, like there's a way to mention other users, and TinyMCE with the mentions plugin lets you do that. So here, if I'm just showing you how it's working, I'm in my TinyMCE right here. I put the @ sign and I start with one first letter. And I'm going to see a list of people with the name starting with A or having in their name. So you see, like, here I have a list of full people, and I scroll over one. There is some kind of like person or people card that show to the right. It's the exact same thing. So maybe my example is not the best, but it's just to show you that like it's possible for you to do that. So maybe in my list, I would have like just a list of name. And on the right, I could have more information about like the role or information about how to contact them if I want to talk to them directly. Basically, you can do whatever you want with that card. So that's kind of like the extent of the demo for mention, because, it's kind of like an easy feature to use for the users. You put the @ sign. Once you write the first letter, you're going to have a list of people that were fetched within your code that you can mention within. Now, if I move to the code section of it, so I'm going to go and mention here. I kept this as really like vanilla JS to make it as simple as possible. So here I have an HTML page. That's going to be basically the same HTML page for all the examples. I'm just going to show you this once. You're going to see it's pretty simple. I have my HTML, my head. I have way too many icons here. I'm loading my script, and I'm loading TinyMCE here. So it's just one line to load the JavaScript. So right now what I'm using is the Tiny Cloud. So here, what you can see right here is my API key. So it's fine. There is some like mechanism in place that like even if you try to steal my key right now, it won't work on your own website. You won't be able to use it. So it's fine if I'm showing that right now. And basically TinyMCE is that text area. So I put a text area here. I pre-populated the content to have like a better example with some HTML content. So that's the only part that will change between one demo to the other. But here, what you need to remember is that I created a text area, and I put a ID mentions just to make things a little more easier to find. If I had a page with multiple text areas, it's just easier to assign or configure TinyMCE to use that text area. So this is the HTML page. I also have some CSS that I put. I don't think it's that important for that demo, but where the magic happened is in my JavaScript. So what I've done, if I go to the end, this is how you initialize TinyMCE. Usually for users, you won't need that part. What you're going to need is define TinyMCE, call the init function. And in my case, because I use a selector, I'm going to have to, put a selector, say that it's text area with my ID mentions. I will put a list of plugins that I want to be activated within TinyMCE, but also what I want to see in the toolbar. So I put a couple of default plugin that you usually want in your rich text editor to make it happen. But here I have a little more stuff because of the mention plugin. So the first thing I need to do to activate that plugin to make it work within TinyMCE is to add it in the list of my plugins. So what I've done here, I have mentions in the list of different plugins. I have the help plugin here, the image plugin. I have the list plugin. I have different plugins that I just put as I said, to have a better TinyMCE visual than just having the mention plugin activated. But here, first things I've done, I put the mention plugin. And keep in mind, this demo may be the most quote-unquote complicated of all the other plugins out there because I'm doing a lot of custom things. I wanted to show you all the possibility, but in the end of the day, there is all those functions that you can activate within Tiny or properties here. So actually, the only one that is required is the mentions _fetch. This is the function that will be called to basically fetch a list of users, because when I do hat and a letter, I need to be able to populate that. TinyMCE need to know what are the list of users. So if I go to mention fetch here, the first thing I do, I have a fake API, which if I click on it, it's basically just a JSON with a list of users that we use for demo. So not critical here, but this is what I use. And in mention fetch here, I'm receiving a query and a callback function. So here I'm basically, this is not totally related to TinyMCE, it's just for you to understand what's happening here, but I'm calling my quote unquote API to get a list of users. And once I get my list of users, I populate the users here with ID, name, picture, and a description if I want to, which here I use to define the role of those users. So this is how TinyMCE is going to be able to populate the list when I do the @. What I've done, I went to a little bit of the extra mile here to show you some other features. So in that case, there's mentions item type, which by default is going to show the name. Here, I decided to show profile. And if I show you the difference here, I go back here. I have issue with my sometimes, so just to be sure. And if I type a user here, you're going to see that now it's just a user, it's just a name list. So if you want to keep it simple, you can do that. But I really like the profile because that gave me something a little more, sexy, a little more nicer and visual. Here, I override the mention menu complete here. So if I go to mention menu complete, it's a function that will override the default logic of inserting the mention into the editor. So here, I just decided to, customize this so I can have a class name. So after that, with CSS, I can make it a little prettier because as you see here, if I go here and I put a name, you're going to see that, okay, maybe it's awesome. So I don't know, Alexander Coleman, but it seems you're awesome today. And you're going to see that's going to be a little bit different here. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but Denise in the chat just asked, she saw that the mentions plugin returns avatars in addition to usernames. Where are those defined or pulled from?
Yeah, no, good question. So those are pulled from my API here. So what we've done is that we have avatar property. So it's a JSON, return a JSON. Oh, actually, sorry, it's not on my screen right now. Here, so let me do that again. Come here. And here I have my quote unquote, kind of like fake API, again, on a wrong browser. And I have my JSON here, and I pulled a bunch of quote fake users that we see right now. And there's an avatar that lists to a link. So what you would do is either in your code, fetch things in the database directly, all the homemade API. So to retrieve the list of users. So you have to manage that list of users on your own side. And what I do, I fetch that information and mention fetch here. And I'm basically build the users here variable that will contain all my information for my users that I'm going to be able to use after. So there's two ways that I'm using that information. Yes, for the mention, but also because I have mentioned select. So I know here that select is when it gives you the opportunity. It's optional. You don't have to do it, but it gives you the opportunity to have an overcard that is shown when a user's put their mouse over the mention. So if I go back in the demo here, when I put my mouse here, it's a little bit nicer. So by default, nothing will be shown because, what you need to understand with those plugins is that we try to create the mechanism behind it easy for you to use. We give you option, but we try not to be too much opinionated about what it does. So by default, there is no that kind of beautiful hover card. So what I've done is that I created within my code. So now when I hover on it, I think it's a little bit nicer, but you don't have to do that, but it's a possibility for you to do that in the code. Same thing that I've done with the menu hover. It was not something that was implemented. It's something that is optional. And this is what you've seen where when I put the @ and I was like, hey, and I had the list here. Let me switch back to profile. I've done it. Let me refresh it. So if I go here and I have my list, see that little card that show when I over and the name and the list. this is what that function is doing. So again, this one maybe not the best example. I should have done something different because now it's the exact same information that you see in the list, but you understand the principle, the idea is there. And how did I create it? That is by, creating that function here, create card. And I basically built a div with what I wanted to show, the image, so the avatar, the name and the description. And right now I'm using that function for when the user over in the list or when the user put their mouse over on the name within the TinyMCE. And last thing you need to know about that, and I'm done about mention after that, unless you have any other questions, there is a tiny comments mode that you need to put. So here I put the invented mode, which means that the comment, not the comments, but actually the, mentions are stored directly within actually, that's not even the right code. That's for another premium plugin. So sometimes, as a developer, you copy paste things and you miss some stuff like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to show with you. So keep in mind, I've shown you a lot more options that you wouldn't have to do normally just because they are there and they give you something a little more powerful from my point of view. But you could basically just implement mention fetch, which is quite important because without that, TinyMCE do not know which users to show in the list. Does that make sense, Brad?
That makes sense to me. Let me see here. We got another question. Oh, yeah, Cedric, we can definitely talk about that in more detail later. He just asked about upgrading to Tiny 8. You can absolutely upgrade from an older version, something like 4 up to 8, and we'll get some resources on that at the end. I'll pull up some links that I'll share with you. So, Frederic, yes, that and I'll never call you Frederic. That was weird. Fred. Yeah, that made sense. Let's go into comments.
Yeah, you need to know that there is another Frederic at a company, and I just joined. So we decided that he is Frederic, I'm Fred. Anyway, everybody call me Fred. So yeah, I guess you're my dad now because he's the only other person who called me Frederic.
So, no.
I know
don't
you don't
feel any older than I am. Okay, on to comments.
Let's move. Let's change the topic. So the second premium feature I want to talk about is the comment, which I really love because mention is one thing. I love to be able to tag people. Keep in mind also that when you tag people, actually, when you connect people within, you do the @ sign and you put the name, at the end of the day, what TinyMCE help you to do is, as I said, the mechanism of tagging people within TinyMCE. But what would be nice as a developer, what I would like to do with that is when someone is, let's say, tagged in mention in comment, maybe you can add a feature that they receive an email and say hey, you've been tagged in that piece of content. Maybe you want to look at it, why people tag you. So there is a endless possibility for you to add features, connects to the possibility to basically tag people. So the comments one is one of the one that I like the most because, as Brad said, we create a lot of content. I create a lot of content, part of my job. And you could ask people that work with me. I have a lot of opinions when we create content. So I like to add comments about stuff. So here, what you can see is by default, when my code, I'm going to show you the code after, I decided to show the comments by default. But by default, if I load the page, I wouldn't see the comments sidebar, but I decided just for the sake of the demo, I have an option to show it by default. And I see that there is 2 comments here. So, when I remove that, I don't see the comments within my content, but when I show the comments sidebar, I see that James, which I think is me for the sake of that example, wrote a comment and Maya also wrote a comment. So if I click on those comments, it highlights where the comment. But you can have a thread also on those comments. So James said hey, what do you think about this? Maya said, I think it's great. And I agree. So I think I'm James. So maybe I have 2 personalities right now, but I can just add to that. And there's other options. So because I created that comment, I have the possibility to say hey, you know what? I made that change. Maya agree with it. I think we're good. So I can resolve that discussion. And now it's resolved. It kind of disappear. Here, I can also add a comment. Please revise the sentence. Exclamation point. Unprofessional. Okay, maybe I won't work too well with Maya. I think she's a little bit too much intense. Do not agree with that. So I can add a comment here. I'm going to save that. But if I try to delete the discussion because I did not create it, I'm not an admin, so there is a way to manage the permission here. I cannot delete that comment. I cannot also resolve the conversation because I decided that I didn't have the permission. But if I had a comment here, I can say like, what do you think about that? And make a mistake on the way to writing that, save that, and now I have new comment. So that's the comment plugin that you have there right now. Let me show you how to implement the comment plugin now in the code. And that's going to be a little bit faster than the mentioned one. So I'm not going to show you the HTML. That's exactly the same HTML that you had before, except that I changed the content within TinyMCE to default content. You have like a different example. So here, again, at the end, I initialized TinyMCE. What I've done here, I just changed the ID of my text area. And here I had in the toolbar, the add comments, but also in the plugins, the tiny comments. So here, that's important. Also had a menu that I decided to call tiny comments and kind of like group some of those options together in the menu. So for most plugins, what you have to do is to have the plugin within the plugins area here, within the TinyMCE init. If you don't know the name of the plugin, go in the docs, you're going to be able to find it. And after that, you need to have the plugin somewhere. So in the toolbar, usually you're going to have the plugin. Again, that's going to be written in the documentation. So here I said, I want to have the button that is add comment, the button that is show comment. And there's a couple more here that I defined. This one, I think I lied before this one, maybe the one that is a little more complex because you manage comment. And there is a lot of things you can do with comments. As you say, I can create comment, I can reply to comment, delete them, resolve the comment as I've done before. You can, if I have the proper permission, I can delete all the comment. I need to be able to go get the information of the comment. So look up a comment, delete one, edit one, and obviously fetch all the comments. So let me go through those functions quickly to show you what they do. So here I'm creating, this is the function that I'm creating a new comment in conversation. So what I've done actually, even before I told you again, I have my user list that I loaded here. And I pre-populated a fake database. So what you would probably do as a developer, you would have your own database, or you would have like an API in front of it, and you would retrieve the comments that have been headed on a piece of content. Here, I faked it. So I basically just like faked a couple of comments here that are by default. So even if I go back here and I refresh, my comments are back because I'm not getting them from a real database. I did not also save the change that I've done before in my fake database. So it's just for the sake of simplicity of the demo, I have my comments here. So here, what I have to do, I have those functions that I need to implement depending on like how I want to manage comment. But the Tiny create mode here, it's basically, yes, I'm created a comment, and that's the function that will add to my database a new comment that was created by James Wilson. So here it's hard-coded. Again, for the simplicity of the demo, what you would need to do is that when someone load TinyMCE, they're probably connected to your application, so you have some kind of ID that you can manage here to connect and have relation within your database. Same thing when I'm replying to the comment. So here, the same thing, I'm adding a comment in my DB, which is my fake database here. So this is really, again, hard-coded here with James and his avatar. And you will be the one deciding like how to do that. The last things I want to show you, because I don't want to go through all those code, you just understand that there are those functions that you need to manage. And here, like as an example, deleting an entire conversation thread. So here I checked that like, is the user that created, actually the person that created the comment, is it the same person? So this is how I decided to manage the logic. So it's why I was not able to delete the comment from, I think her name was Mia, as Jake, because I was not the one who created that thread. You can decide to implement this differently. So we do not manage this for you because we want to give you the flexibility. What you could do also is have some people that have like a higher credential, like would be admin or someone who is responsible managing like the last version of the content you want to create. So that person could be like an owner or admin, and could like within your code, you could decide that like, hey, that person is able to delete that comment thread, or that person won't be able to delete it, because in that case, what I said, like, hey, you must be an admin to be able to delete a conversation that is not yours. And you do that with all those functions, you define them to be sure that it makes sense. I've just seen one comment. I didn't read them all, but I've seen Cedric. Can you share your script GS? Please, actually, I will do it. So I forgot to post that code on GitHub before the webinar. So sorry about that, but I will do it after the webinar. So it will be in the webinar notes, but also I will share them on, Twitter, LinkedIn. So feel free to check when I'm going to share them. I'm going to put them on GitHub. Maybe not today, if I want to be honest, a little bit of a busy schedule, but by the end of the week, that code will be on GitHub. And actually, you know what? Feel free to let me know if there's things that like, hey, could be improved in the code if you're a developer. If not, most of the code that I'm using, though, is already available on the TinyMCE documentation. So as this one, an example, we are in the, demo comments plugin. So if you go into docs, we're going to share the link later, but if you go into docs and you go check the comment plugin documentation, you're going to see basically nearly the same example. I changed one or two things for the demo, but it will be there. So I'll put them on LinkedIn.
And Fred, I'll hop in. I'm going to put the links for a couple things up here, but we'll follow up no later than Friday with an email to everyone who is here on the session with links to the GitHub repo, slide, anything we can for backup info. And then Fred, Denise had another question. It's in the comments if you want to read it, but let me see. She said, are comments only visible while in edit mode when the editor is initialized? And I asked a follow-up, and then she said, are comments or even mentions visible or returned once an edit, including either is saved and the page rendered for consumption US? The comments don't really go away. Like they're there, they stay there. If you resolve them, I don't know that there's not really a history.
No. So once you resolve or delete a conversation, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure once you resolve or delete, it's done. So I know like on some tools like Google Docs, you're still going to be able to see resolve deleted. I'm not sure about deleted, but at least resolve one. It's not a feature we have right now. I don't know if it's going to come at some point, but once it's done, it's deleted or resolved. It's not there anymore unless you decided to implement the mechanism for that, because at the end of the day, those comments are part of the content. So depending on how you manage the content, maybe there's a way for you to save them if you want to access them. But as far as I know, it's not out of the box with TinyMCE.
That is correct. And time check, Fred, I know we got lots of good stuff to show. It's 11:43 right now.
I told you put me in a webinar. I talked a lot. The good news, though, my friend. The good news, though, is that the last two plugin may be a little more easier to implement. Not that the previous one are difficult. If you think about that, all the mechanism that is implemented for you in TinyMCE save you a lot of time, but there's still a lot of work to do because, as I said, we try not to be opinionated about everything. We just put things in place for you to make it easier. And after that, you're good to go. So a TinyMCE revision history here, that is exactly what it is doing. So I have the final version here, like this is what I've been working on, but I have that little revision history here, and I can see the previous modification that was implemented. So you see in green things that were added, you see in red, so that was the first version here, but you see in red what was removed. So what I can do here is, again, we try to make it simple for the user, but still powerful. So what I can do, this is the version I have right now, and I can go back to that version from Maya here, and say restore that version, which now we're going to have like the got question or need help that wasn't there before. If I go there, I can continue to move to different version. Now I move to the first version that we have in the revision history. So here, that's the extent of the demo of the plugin. Super useful because sometimes, as Brad said, you're a team working on something. Some people may change without the suggested edit to make the change directly. And you want to know what's happening. You want to know what changes were made. There was a mistake. You want to revert, and you have the option to do that here. So if I go into code, again, I faked a lot of things today for the sake of the demo. I faked the revision. So again, I did not connect to the database. I just had a JavaScript file here where I faked some previous version of the content. So I had that in that JavaScript file. I'm loading that here. So again, TinyMCE in it. This is where I initialize TinyMCE. It's that simple. If I want to use the revision history plugin, guess what? I need to add a revision history plugin here. I will add it to my toolbar too. And I have those two functions here that I need to implement. So the revision history here is to fetch, as you probably guessed, the old save version. So this is require. What I've done here, I've already loaded all my revision. So I fake load my database here. I have everything in my revision here, and I just sort them through the date and, resolve that with the sorted version of everything I had in my JavaScript file. So this is how TinyMCE was able to load the history of like all the changes. And I continue to fetch the users because we need that for most collaboration plugins. You need users to know who has done what. So again, that's the same principle as before. I just kind of like have my fake API that return me a JSON list of users, and I load it here. And the last one is the revision history fetch revision, which is a pretty interesting name here. I created that here where I'm fetching a specific revision based on what the user selected, and I send that to TinyMCE. And TinyMCE, this is where TinyMCE is like, yeah, I need to change the content with the revision selected by the users. Or if there's an issue, I can also reject because, like, I don't know, the user selected something that I was not able to fetch completely. So this is how you implement that. So again, all the mechanism within the UI is managed for you, but you need to do the work about like how I'm going to fetch all the revision, how I'm going to also save all the revision in my database. I'm going to be able to fetch a specific version. You need to code this yourself, but all the heavy lifting is done for you. And the last one, unless you have anything to add, Brad?
No. One thing, I mean, the only thing I will say is, like, of course, any application of scale is going to be storing things in a database and pulling them back. We are engineered, though. We're built like you could store all of this basically in the HTML and JavaScript yourself, as long as you're not going to have 85 revisions on a piece of content. It could go in that one file. You don't have to have a database. Of course, that would be the best way to do it, but we try to be as agnostic as we can when it comes to that. We have built you a simple, powerful editor with a lot of cool stuff, and it will wire up to whatever you need after that.
Okay. Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
And the last feature I want to talk to you about is the suggested edit plugin. So here it does exactly, again, what it said. It's going to show you suggested edit. You can add suggested edit as a user. So when that plugin is activated, I had in my toolbar the review edits here. I can see what other user had or removed. And right now I have the capacity, the permission to be able to reject or add stuff. So I see that Alex here had the word interactive. So if I close there, you see that the word is there. So I can decide to reject that. And when I complete my review, voila, I rejected the suggestion. So that's also a feature that I cannot live without when I create content with other people. Because again, I write an article and our technical writer is going to go after to fix my, my grammar issue, my English, because English is not my first language. So I may make some mistakes. And I'm like, even if I write a lot, I don't consider myself a writer. So she's going to fix stuff, but I still want to know what she's done first. When it's English related, it helps me to learn. But sometimes she change the way the sentence it's written. And even if she's doing an amazing job most of the time, I'm picky with my own content. So I want to know what's happening. So I want to be able to approve, replace, or even provide feedback. So, Alex here, change again the content. James said it's nice improvement, but I said, I don't like it. So it seems like I'm negated. I'm on Wednesday today. It seems like I don't like any change that anyone did in the demo. But maybe I want to accept it anyway, because, I'm going to be a team player. And I accept that, and I complete my review, and I'm done. Again, go there, show it. I can show the final version. I can show the edition myself. So if you see, the last one was Alec Thompson. If I say it is very nice, which I'm really not inspired today to write on. But you're going to see now that I added some content, and it's very nice because I'm Alex today, and I can say yeah, I'm going to accept that. And now it's part of the content. So suggested it. I would say from my point of view, they're all amazing plugin, but this one is probably like the most important when you create content because you really want to be able to do that. So quickly in the code, I still initialized TinyMCE. I had the suggested edits in the plugin list. I had it to my toolbar also. And the only real thing that I really have to do is the suggested edit model here. I need to provide a model. I need to provide a JSON model of all the editions that were done before. So again, I should retrieve this from a database. Here, I'm faking a database. So I changed the code a little bit to give you another way to fake it. But here I have my model.json, and it's basically a JSON schema that show like, hey, who did what, who had like some feedback, what are the changes that were done. And it's just a JSON file with all the suggested that you've seen in the script. So I just loaded that, provided the model. So with my JSON that I load inside my model, I provide it to TinyMCE so it knows what to load. Here, there's another feature where I gave myself full access, but depending on your users, they can have feedback access. So they cannot like accept or reject suggestion, but they can leave feedback. And some people that can just read, so they cannot even have any feedback to it. And there is also other option that you can do. Lastly, I still fetch the user list because I still need my user list to associate the suggested it with some of the users. Here, I did it another way, so you can see also another way to do it. So I just put inline code to fetch the user again from, my fake user API. So lastly, and I start talking about that, I promise. Now I've shown you all those features separately, but think about just 1 second, close your eyes and think about all those features together in one tiny instance where you can add comments, where you can mention people, where you can suggest it, and when you also see the revision history of your code. So here I have just one comment here. I can add another one and say like test 2 and everything together, all the tools that I need to be successful with just a little bit of effort. So you just need to implement the couple of functions that I've shown you, but the hardest part is done for you, and that give you what I would call a full-fledged collaboration tool within TinyMCE.
And
so I think that's it for me.
You did a great job. I was just going to add an easy way to connect the two last features, suggested edits and revision history, is that you could code a save point essentially from hang on, let's make our faces bigger. You can code a save point for revision history every time you complete, you accept changes or, accept edits in suggested edits, right? And so that's how you start to get, from a compliance standpoint, a snapshot of all the changes that were made over time. Yep. And with that, we only have a few minutes, so I think what did my last slide even say?
I like doing a webinar with you, Brad. You're more organized than me because when I do webinar live stream, I'm going to talk until I'm done. And like, if people want to stay with me for 2 hours, let's do that. But I have also other stuff to do. So I
just assume other people have important things to do.
So
all right,
me,
so
people.
We will be following up this webinar with, like I said, an email to all the attendees with this link, all the other Fred's GitHub repo link, all of those things. Before we open it up for any last questions, I would also urge you, go to tiny.cloud. We have a 14-day free trial of our cloud-hosted service that opens up all of these features that we just showed you. For 14 days, you have access to everything. So you can really get in there, play around with it, how well it's going to work for your business case, and then decide, what version that you actually need from there. With that said, y'all have asked a lot of great questions all the way throughout, so you may not have anything left, but we do have just a couple of minutes left. We'll wait. And I just want to say, again, Denise and Cedric, I think y'all were the most vocal. And then Chris at the very beginning, just really appreciate all of the participation today.
Yeah. And by the way, we're going to the end of the webinar. You may not have questions right now because I we gave you a lot of information. So maybe you need time to digest like all the premium and how you can use that within your project. So as I said before, feel free to contact me in any platform. Actually, with the follow-up, I'm going to put my email in the follow-up. So you're going to be able to send me an email. So if you have questions post-webinar, once you try either the code that I'm going to put on GitHub, or you try it yourself, try to implement it in your project, or you're just thinking about it, but you have questions, let us know. We're going to be more than happy to help you.
Yep. And last thing, we have a developer center. Brand new. We're pretty proud of it. Go to, again, tiny.cloud. It's right in the top nav. Easy to find. Click on developers. Click on developer center. It has a lot of tutorials and code snippets. I was going to say it's full of, but it's new and we're still adding things, right? So we've got content for our most popular frameworks, React, Angular, Vue, one or two others, and we're adding content all the time. So if you get there and you need help with something, you're not really sure, again, shoot Fred a note, let us know, reach out, go to Join Tiny on Twitter. Yeah, we love feedback and we want to bring y'all whatever you need to be successful.
Oh, yeah, and I think we're reading the same thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to answer?
So Denise I have a question, but I may need to reach out to your customer success manager. It's fine. So reach out to people internally. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions after that. And there's also George, you said that we don't store any data on our servers. So does cloud services save data in the cloud? So George, we don't. TinyMCE is just like the rich text editor part. To load the content inside it or to save the content, it would be your developer's job to do that. So either, as we said, either you decide to use any provider, any local database, any way you want. You usually can retrieve or save the data. You have to choose how you're going to do it. So what we provide you is the tool to create the content, but you need to do the manipulation of the data. But we put things in place to make it easy to retrieve the data, but also to be able to put the data inside the TinyMCE when you load content that was taken from, let's say, your database.
Yep. Out of the box, like any cloud service, we can see, when you use a feature, when that feature is downloaded and served up from our service, but we don't track what you do with it after that. We certainly don't track or save any user data unless you're using, our cloud storage service. And that, again, that's opt-in. That's your decision, not ours. So with that, I think we are at the top of the hour. Thank y'all so much. Really great participation. And please let us know how we can help you in the future. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye, everyone.